Jack Smith has been caught again spying, searching, attempting to, and you got to give it up. Sometimes you got to give it up to some big tech. And AT&T said, sorry, Jack, you're not going to get Ted Cruz's phone records. And we don't even really know why they did, but they did not do it, but we know for a fact that he was searching for it.
That's right, Logan. So what we've got here now is a 9th U.S. senator that Jack Smith was attempting to subpoena the phone records from. We know that at least with 8 of them, it's reported he was able to get them. That was Senator Marsha Blackburn, Senator Johnson, Haggerty, Hawley, Loomis, Lindsey Graham, Dan Sullivan, and Tommy Tuberville, as well as a sitting member of the House of Representatives, Representative Mike Kelly from Pennsylvania.
That's why Tommy Tuberville's like, I'm going to be governor.
That's right.
Enough of this.
Now we're hearing that, and Axios got the scoop last night, that Ted Cruz was also targeted. The twist here is they subpoenaed these phone records, including text messages, voicemail information, all of this, yet AT&T did not comply with the subpoena. That opens up a lot more questions, and I know, Jordan, we're going to get into that in the next segment, but the fact that he at least was not, his information was not transmitted to the special counsel's office because they decided not to comply.
I think it's even interesting that they did not comply, which means the other organizations that did comply
probably were afraid that if they didn't comply, they would be sued in court.
Yeah.
So what AT&T did was say, basically call their bluff. And what happened, it looks like Jack Smith was really on a fishing expedition. He didn't have enough on any of these people to actually get a warrant. He was saying
this wasn't a murder.
He was trying anybody and everybody who is basically a well-known name that you might see on Fox News or someone who got very connected to one of the voter issues in their state.
May have been in conversation with President Trump.
I mean, it shows you who really has the power here. Well, now these other telecom companies, I hope I use Verizon, I hope they listen and say, you know what? Let's do next time what AT&T did and stand up for our customers' security when we believe that data is not appropriately requested and we're not afraid of a lawsuit because it seems like this is connected to nothing. Because at that point, Ted Cruz's name was not being discussed as someone who was being looked at as a potential. None of these people were. No. As a potential criminal actor.
Well, in Jordan, I mean, when a subpoena is issued,
it's really enraging.
A company could be held in contempt of court.
Oh, yeah.
If there's a subpoena. So AT&T, at least from the reporting, by not complying, their general counsel thought it was a better move to call the bluff and the risk being on the other side. Sanctions, contempt of court, the list goes on to fight it.
If they were in control, could really make AT&T's life not pleasant.
Right.
I mean, you can regulate companies in a pretty nasty way. So it was interesting. They said, we're going to stand on the side of the consumer, and I hope they actually lean into that message because I think you'd see a lot more people switching over their service.
The Biden administration strategically waited to start pursuing investigations against President Trump and trying to indict him until later in the Biden term. And we had that famous raid on Mar-a-Lago, which was related to classified documents. And then the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, appointed a special counsel to handle investigations into the former president at the time and looked into both trying to get charges on the classified documents case out of Florida and then out of D.C. Related to January 6th, trying to tie him into this conspiracy, making it some sort of obstruction charge at the president because he didn't do enough to stop people on January 6th. So that's what this all stems from. And this Arctic Frost investigation was related to the January 6th information.
Again, Arctic Frost is like a code name.
FBI code name for their investigation. You think about Crossfire Hurricane.
I know, we got to give
Crossfire Razor. Yeah, that was the Mike Flynn one.
When you hear Arctic Frost, we have to give people some background.
That's right. So Arctic Frost was the code name within the FBI and then later the Department of Justice for this investigation.
Every one of these members, was that the same date frame?
It was the same time frame, yes. January 4th through the 7th of 2021.
This was connected to
January 6th.
January 6th, and exactly what they were looking for by using geolocation and who they were speaking to is, were they talking to the president? Were they with the president? Were they in the White House? Basically, you could find out who someone is meeting with in any of the buildings in D.C. or have at least 90% chance of being correct just by knowing their location and time, because you can kind of play into, okay, what was happening at that day. So you imagine, if this is an attempt to spy on yet another U.S. senator. They did it on 8, and now we know they've done it on 9th. If I was a U.S. senator and I was in Senate during that time period, I'd be going to the FBI right now and say, like, okay, Bongino Cash, tell me, like, how compromised did I get?
Where did we get? Yeah.
Because no one ever told me about this, and they may not be the ones you know by name that are on TV as much, but that's certainly who they targeted.
Well, and this is also an attack on a co-equal branch of government. They are looking at this in a way that we have not seen before. But also, we see that Senator Marsha Blackburn is actually calling on the DOJ to investigate this. She has sent a letter to the Attorney General requesting an investigation. But I think another question that this brings up, we know that at least for the first 8, that the phone companies appeared to comply. They gave the information to the special counsel's office.
Kind of feels like the social media world where they felt pressure, like Jordan said.
Right.
Pressure.
Well, if the special counsel with the Department of Justice comes
calling,
and you're a regulated industry, you'd think that your general counsel at first is going to be like, we should probably comply with the government.
Give them what they want.
AT&T, in the case of Ted Cruz, it appears, did not comply with the subpoena, which means that someone in the general counsel's office, at least this is what we can maybe infer from this, looked at this and thought about consumer protections, public relations, as well as the separation of powers, and thought, this doesn't necessarily seem like something we should comply with. That puts the company at jeopardy of sanctions, contempt of court. They would then have to expend money to fight that in court. We don't know if Jack Smith just dropped it at that point, or if he filed motions to compel, or if there was a motion filed by AT&T. Hopefully that will get reported out, because that's the most fascinating angle.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what AT&T has to say. I know they probably are not going to respond to this. You know what I like in my theory in my head is they looked up Ted Cruz's account. They're like, he's been a loyal customer since he's a Bell South man, really, is what we're talking about here. Right. He's been with us for a long time. We're not going to turn over his records. How dare they? He got the little card. He's had a landline with us since 78.
He wears a lapel pin right under his American flag lapel
Bell
pin.
South logo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would love to know if AT&T got any response after the date they had to submit this information, or, as is so typical with Washington, did it disappear? Was it just a fishing expedition that they knew they probably couldn't defend in court? So let's just see how many companies will send it over.
If Jack Smith didn't fight this, that also shows that it was a fishing expedition.
And then we don't know how many other companies did what Ted Cruz's did now. Now we need to learn that. So I would ask the U.S. senators to go and check to see, was there a time when your service provider was contacted in this time period, so January 4th to 7th, about information from January 4th to 7th? Does it matter? Did that happen? And did you just not respond? Because then we'd know. I think if they did respond, that would have been in the information that we already have seen. Like if they already got the information they're requesting, those are the initial 8 plus the member of the House. I mean, but it is, again, it's the worst of the worst, because they are just spying to spy for political damage. This has nothing to do with U.S. national security. So turning on our own elected leaders, I mean, that is the worst of the FBI. That's the worst of the deep state intelligence agencies and policing forces coming together and using their power to try and intimidate elected members of Congress who are supposed to be running the country because they are voted in by the people of the country.